I don't think you know anything about Harry Styles.
Our communities.
Gonna talk about it again, so yo, I told y'all so.
Our culture.
I am a Sam Smith. I will be Sam's representative.
Our stories.
It's also not a requirement for you to agree our opinions.
This is the Culture Report.
Welcome to this week's Culture Report. Over the past 6 months, we've discussed all kinds of stories.
Yeah, everything from LGBTQ plus issues to gun laws and body image.
And we've had some great people join us in studio and share their voices. So this week we're reflecting on some of our favorite conversations so far. Influencer and trans activist Dylan Mulvaney is on the receiving end of some growing criticism after partnering with Bud Light. Sadly, with her being a trans woman, some backlash was expected, but things got a bit more heated when a notable trans figure like Caitlyn Jenner also spoke out against companies partnering with trans women. So Caitlyn is a mess on a whole other level that we can't. So nothing she says can be held with any weight.
I can never understand as being a part of a marginalized community and having a platform like she has to block or to discredit people from your own community that are trying to survive and make a way for themselves. So I can't understand her mentality with anything.
It stemmed because somebody was talking about because Dylan also had a partnership with Nike.
Right. Yeah.
And they were she was responding to a tweet of someone saying how in 2018 a Nike brand ambassador
got a percentage of
pay.
pay.
It was 70%, received 70% of her pay after she got pregnant.
Right.
And that was back in 2018, but they're saying that they treat a trans woman like Dylan better because she's getting paid more. And
I have a question. So we should be paying the same rates from 2018 to 2023?
Right.
Because please up my pay. I'm not yesterday's price, not today's price.
Right, exactly.
That doesn't sit for me. I don't care whose position this was.
It doesn't make sense. I was like, that was 5 or 6 years ago, and if anything, shouldn't we be celebrating that Nike is growing?
Right. Hello? Expanding their mindsets, growing. And my thing is, I have a question. So who doesn't drink beer? Who's not allowed to drink beer? I mean, I don't, and I'm a woman that doesn't drink beer. Mm-hmm. But I think that plenty of women would be in a commercial to advertise the beer because plenty of women do. So what, trans women don't drink beer? Yeah. I don't understand the issue.
But no hate to Bud Light because they've always been allies. They've always been down for the pride. And when Pride season begins, Pride campaigns are quick to follow, but sadly, toxic and queerphobic criticism is never far behind. That's definitely been the case over the past few years, as LGBTQ plus culture wars have been kicked into overdrive. Now, we've seen it very prevalently with Bud Light after they gifted trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney a can of beer with her face on it. Self-proclaimed true Americans boycotted and the brand's sales dipped. Now, Senator Ted Cruz is proposing a federal investigation into Anheuser-Busch and Mulvaney for what he believes is marketing alcohol to children.
And the foolishness continues as controversy brews over Target's new Pride merch collection, which has been the target of a new wave of conservative media outrage after a video falsely claimed that tuck-friendly bathing suits were being marketed to kids. The retailer has since decided to remove certain items from the collection, but said that they are still committed to the LGBTQ plus community.
Adidas also just launched their 2023 Pride collection, and the company is getting a lot of backlash. Some people are mad about the person chosen to model a one-piece bathing suit. They are calling out the company, saying they are, quote, erasing women. Adidas has not responded, but on the company's website, it states that that collection is a celebration of self-expression, and the swimsuit is advertised under both the men's and women's section.
And North Face is also starting to feel the heat over its latest Pride campaign. In an Instagram post, drag performer Patagonia promoted the brand's Summer of Pride campaign, which aims to make outdoor spaces more accessible to diverse communities that may not always feel welcome. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling for a boycott of the popular brand, accusing it of, quote, grooming our children. North Face defended its campaign when asked to comment about the backlash.
Everybody turns into Whitney Houston all of a sudden when anytime queer people, I believe that everybody wants to sit here and march through the trying to protect the kids. It's always the kids. Kids get, which I think, of course, kids should be protected, but not from this.
Yeah, actually, it's like doing the opposite. I feel like when you remove all, like, or you're advocating against all this inclusivity of queer merch and celebrating pride, I actually feel like that harms children because it makes them scared to come out. Some of y'all kids are gay. Like, some of y'all kids are trans,
I
some
mean,
of y'all
the
kids are
stats are
non-binary.
there.
And being a type of person or a parent that actively and vocalizes a hatred for a community, I can't imagine being in a household like that. And like, to me, that's harmful to children.
I don't, I, like you said, grooming children. I don't know why they just jumped to children. I don't know what about that was targeted towards children.
Because it was an adult bathing suit, like, if we're going to be real. It was an adult bathing suit.
But I don't know where
was
this
North
is.
Face.
Yeah, and I don't know where it's coming from. It's not like it's something new. A lot of companies have been, trying to be supportive of the LGBTQ community. So I don't know, what is it? Is it the rhetoric around it?
Something over the past few years shifted.
If we go back to 2016, there was a certain person in political power that I feel stoked the flames of hatred. And over these past few years, we've seen that in various ways, January 6th, all that kind of stuff. And I think now we're just seeing people very comfortably express their hatred.
Because we've always seen this isn't new. Of course, people, anytime someone has a pride collection, they have this backlash. But like not like this. They're coming.
This is like every day. It's like someone's getting mad about a pride collection. It's the pride collection. That's what I don't understand.
And it's troubling too because it's like a different way of backlash too. Now they're like personally like attacking people. Like I know like Mulvaney, that one, the people in marketing were like getting, all this backlash, some of them death threats, and it's just scary the way it's like moving in that direction.
I don't think anyone should be forced. I know a lot of people say like they're forcing this on us, and I agree. We should not be forcing anything onto anyone. But good thing that I did not go into Target, steal your pocketbook. Hey, can I borrow this pocketbook? And purchase this pride.
Just don't buy it.
Just don't buy
if you don't want it.
About Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, we sell in December. There's Christmas stuff everywhere. You have the music, you have the merchandise. Not everyone celebrates
What about
Christmas.
people that aren't religious?
You go in the store, there's alcohol. Are you trying to sell it to everyone?
Right.
Yeah, NPR did say that the younger generations are closely paying attention to like companies that are like promoting LGBTQ and being authentic in the way they like do their campaigns. So it's important that it's not just this month. That they're watching them closely, all these companies. So that's why when I see like North Face standing behind it, like it just makes them look more authentic.
Like their heart's in the right place. Because like once they start pulling that stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, you're in it for the buck.
Yeah, and not just for the month of June to like get that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, we're thankful for the brands that are standing with our community.
A company to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse, in my opinion, than not hiring a trans person at all, because it gives customers permission to be as transphobic and hateful as they want. And the hate doesn't end with me. It has serious and grave consequences for the rest of our community. And we're customers too. I know a lot of trans and queer people who love beer.
And this is the first time we are hearing from Dylan Mulvaney since all the backlash she and Bud Light received after Dylan posted a sponsored post with the brand on her Instagram back in April. In her recent video post, she said the company has not reached out to her since all of the backlash started. And for those wondering why it took her so long to respond, she said she was scared. She said, quote, "I felt personally guilty for what transpired, so I patiently waited for things to get better, but surprise, they really haven't." And she also mentioned in the video that she's been afraid to leave her house.
Which is very unfortunate. First, I mean, I really appreciate Dylan for speaking out. The blonde looks amazing. We love that. The hair looked great. And sorry, but I mean, good. Call them out. Don't have a little partnership with me. Don't say you support me, and then all of a sudden, just as soon as you get some backlash, like, oh, I'm silent.
Yeah.
That's not allyship. And actually, I've been on board with Bud Light this whole time, and I've been like, good for them. You know what? They're standing.
That's what I said. I was like, they're standing with Dylan. They're fine. But the fact that they haven't even reached out to her, knowing that she's getting death threats.
Right.
They know that because we've seen the comments, unfortunately, under our posts about anything we do with Dylan. All the death threats, all the comments, all the awful things. So, for them not even to reach out, they clearly know what's going on. They saw what Kid Rock was doing. They saw what all these other conservative people were doing and saying. So the fact that they haven't even reached out is crazy.
Yeah, so now, like, after this whole situation, I was like, wow, now the conservatives don't want to talk to you. I definitely don't want to talk to you anymore. I need you. I mean, you're not completely lost. I mean, you can still do something, but I don't see you doing anything and convincing me that it's not just because of all the backlash.
They're not getting the support back from the LGBT.
I feel like with true allyship, like, if you want to protect trans people, queer people, then do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's giving very performative, which I don't appreciate. So what do you think Bud Light should do next?
I have no clue because no one's supporting them at this point. So how could they get the representation? Like, what can they do to get their brand back? That becoming that #1 beer company in America again? I don't know. I don't think they can at this point. No one's supporting them. What do you think?
It took too long.
This happened in April. Look, and it is what, July?
Yeah.
So I don't think they can get there.
It took too long, and it's very unfortunate. I just hope, I mean, I want to say I hope you can learn and grow from this, which you can.
Yeah.
You can mend some bridges, but I don't see them having the same following. What do you call it?
I don't know. But I don't think they're going to get those people back. That their supporters, the people that love their brand, don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately.
El Paso County is attracting social media attention after an allegedly racially fueled feud between neighbors landed one black couple in jail. Courtney and Nicole Mallory, a black couple from Colorado Springs, have accused their white neighbors and law enforcement officers of harassment and racism after multiple acts of vandalism and animal mutilation of their livestock went unanswered for. Over the last 2 years, more than 20 restraining orders have been filed between the Mallorys and their neighbors. Earlier this month, the couple was arrested after one neighbor provided law enforcement with videos and pictures of activity that El Paso County Sheriff's Office deemed to be criminal in nature. They have since been released. So there are a lot of moving parts with this case. So we invited our legal expert, Whitney Traylor, to join us. So thank you for joining us, one. Something that just keeps sticking out to me is the sheriff's office continued to let the same officer handle the case, even though they had already complained about him multiple times. So do you think they could be at fault for that?
No, you raised a great question, and I actually had that in my notes, was why they kept sending the same officer, because the situation, as you said in the lead-in, they had a number of restraining orders, and the sheriff's office said they responded to over 170 calls, but some of the restraining orders were against the officers themselves. And so this officer having a restraining order against him, even though it was dismissed, 2 of them actually, then that would show some level of bias when you're going, and it was his arrest report that I did read this morning that led to the arrest. And the arrest report actually read, it felt very personal. He was making statements about the easement and whether they had a right to be there or not. And usually law enforcement won't make those kind of civil determinations. That's why people sue each other, neighbors sue each other civilly. So it read somewhat personally, and he reviewed a bunch of video from the neighbor, Teresa Clark, even though the Mallorys had also made a number of complaints as well. So yeah, it raises a question of bias and in fairness. They actually should have gotten somebody from another department probably to even come and investigate.
Yeah. Speaking of video, something that stuck out to me is I read that they took the cameras from the Mallorys, but aren't we allowed to be able to like monitor our property? A lot of people have Ring cameras, right? So
yeah.
What happened?
No, you all are raising all the same issues that I had, because when the police came to issue the arrest warrant, they actually seized 2 of the Mallory's cameras as evidence, and the Mallory's cameras were facing the neighbor who made the complaint, which is understandable that, hey, I don't like their cameras, but they're affixed to their own house. They can, aim their cameras any direction they want. So yeah, they did seize that as part of evidence. So that also seemed a little suspect.
Yeah.
So with all this going on, there's like, how should a neighbor, and they both feel threatened by each other, what should they do in this situation,
Exactly. And when you read it, and it really depends, and this is our court system, depending on who's advocating for you and who's advocating more zealously will be really who a jury believes. And here, if you read one person's restraining order versus the other, it's going to read totally the opposite. And so for me, one of the key points that I put was this is a case that's ripe for mediation. So, right, there's potential criminal action, right, where the prosecutor will come in and say, yeah, you were stalking, and they have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. But there's also these civil claims where, we as a society have said this is not how we want to treat one another. And so they can end up in court suing each other civilly as well. But as part of that, there's something called mediation, which is where a third party comes in to try and help people resolve it. If there's ever a case for mediation, this is it. I mean, it sounds serious and people are alleging that they're scared of one another, but unless somebody's going to move, they're going to have to figure out a way to coexist, right? And so mediation seems like something that they should be exploring.
What a mess.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And this is not unusual to have neighbors where it's a dispute about the fence or the music or the dog barking. And then, we're in a society now where things escalate. And this hasn't escalated to the point of, there's allegations of, animal mutilations and all these other things, but there hasn't been at least any assault on one another. But this is a classic situation of sort of a microcosm of our society now in how quickly everybody is ready to get fired up, and this is something, if you're going to stay there, you got to learn how to live together.
Did you find it interesting that they made it a point to release all the documents and the video, but they they didn't talk about the fact that the officer was, accused 4 times. They didn't even make mention or talked about why that was allowed to happen.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And something else they didn't talk about was, I don't know if it was a result of the publicity, but they went back and reviewed all 170 calls, and 2 of the cases they reactivated, one of which involved an allegation against the police. So, eyes being on it, I think has been a good thing in terms of the fairness of justice going forward.
Well, this is definitely something we'll probably be following for a while, it sounds like. So thank you for coming on and giving your expertise on this.
Right now, people across the nation are calling for stricter gun laws in wake of yet another school shooting. 3 children and 3 adults were killed Monday when a gunman shot up a school in Nashville. Many are calling out hypocrisy within select legislatures for fast-tracking other bills proposed under the guise of protecting children, though they seem to be dragging their feet when it comes to the leading killer of children, which is gun violence.
Yeah, so this week Utah signed 2 laws that would restrict children using the use of social media. So that bill would take effect next year. It would call for social media companies to verify users' ages and set a curfew for teens under 18.
And Tennessee is now the first state to criminalize drag performances. The new bill, which takes effect April 1st, restricts adult cabaret entertainment on public property or in locations where it can be viewed by minors. Lawmakers in at least a dozen other states have proposed similar measures.
And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is back at it again. His administration is now moving to expand the controversial Don't Say Gay law to Florida high schools. The new proposal would ban lessons on gender identity and sexual orientation from 4th to 12th grade, so basically all the public schools. So.
Right. There's a lot to get into here, but the biggest question I have all the time when this pops up is, why do you need an AR-15? Thankfully, the Washington Post and Ipsos did a poll on this. Take a look at this graph. But 33% of the people say they use it for protection. About another 30% say they use it for target practice or fun. And there are 12%, I believe, that say they use it for hunting. I can say that if you need an AR-15 to hunt, you should choose a different hobby. Right. Not take an AR-15.
And what in the wild will require AR-15?
I wish.
Why would a civilian need that? I don't get that. I could see somebody, a police officer, they are constantly protecting people, but a civilian? That just makes no sense to me. And then you hear people, they're like, you want to ban assault weapons, a gun can do that, it can be used as assault. So what's the argument then? If a small one can do it, why do you need an AR-15?
I think it's just to show it off and to say that they have it. I know that's one of the reasons.
It was one of the reasons. Some just say it looks cool. I think it was 6%. And then there was another 3% that said there were 2%. They say they just did it to make liberals angry. and because it caused fear in other people.
But what gets lost in this is like the protection of children. So we go back to it, like
Right.
gun violence is leading cause of children death.
The number one.
In this country, which is crazy.
Which is why I don't understand. They're like, oh, like, for the past few months, we just keep seeing legislation passed that's really under the guise of, oh, we want to protect our kids. Like, guns are killing our kids, not drag queens.
Yeah.
They keep saying they want to protect kids. They keep saying, like, don't have an abortion, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, when you're forcing these women to have children, and then they're going to be sent to school where they're eventually, you know, if they're never going to pass anything,
There's having like school drills, you know, to prepare them in case somebody comes in to harm them, God forbid, you know, kill them. I mean, that's not normal. How are other countries observing us? That's just
Ghetto.
Just a few days ago, the House Majority Leader was talking about it, and he was saying how upset he gets when people use tragedies like this to, you know, push their agendas, their political agendas, especially without knowing all the facts. But I'm like, the fact is that someone went into a school and killed 3 kids. I'm like, that's a
We're
fact.
talking about it all the time, like it keeps happening and keeps happening. So when is it like, I really thought after Sandy Hook, which was
10 years ago.
Yeah, over 10 years ago, I thought like we would see like really, really, really big change, and nothing really happened.
to this year, we've already had over 100 mass shootings, and we're only in March. I mean, I don't know what that tells people, but there's clearly a problem.
Right.
I mean,
I don't know.
his solution, he says we really need to focus on mental health and securing schools, which yes, sure, of course, we should have that defense, but I mean that defense, but I'm like, why are we not, I feel like it's like, let's say there's a crack in a dam and there's a little water leaking and there's a simple solution for it, and everybody's looking at that crack like, we should invest in boats. Like, to fix the crack.
Oh, it's
Right.
not funny, but
I don't know, but I feel like that's why it's, you know, so important to vote.
But why is that lagging? Oh,
Yeah, no,
real
I-
quick.
oh, yeah, no, go to it.
I was just gonna say, why is it lagging so much to like pass some gun, reform something? But the other ones pass like they're just fast tracking through those, like they're going fast. So
Quick to ban the drag show.
Because they don't
the
want
drag shows, we have the textbooks in Florida. Why can't we learn about certain things?
Because they
infringe on their constitutional
Yeah.
rights. Like, I mean, the Second Amendment's cool. Like, I think if you want a gun, fine. I know. Well, I believe you feel differently.
I mean, I don't understand that completely. That's a whole different other argument. I don't understand the need for guns. Like, especially now that we see it's so rampant and so dangerous. Like, you can't go to the grocery store, the movie theater, your home. Like,
We're in fear of going anywhere. Why do I have to think about, like, if I'm at the mall, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Same with the kids. You're sending your kids to school. Like, are they going to come back home? I don't know.
But to your point, that's why it's important that we vote. So
It is important to vote. So if you want to see legislation like that pass, our race and culture contributor Shay Johnson actually spoke a bit about why it's so important, especially for young people to get out and vote in local elections. Take a listen.
And younger voters, this is the time now. I always tell younger voters, if you think it doesn't matter now, guess what? In 4 years, you're going to realize how much it does matter. And so the vote that you did or did not cast is going to absolutely make a difference, right? So the people that we're putting in now today, the things are going to show up years later. The impact is going to be forever. So we have to get in touch now. We have to vote as young voters. I remember being like, I don't care who my city council person is. What does that matter to me? And then I start looking at things, and I'm looking at now zones changing and different things happening, gentrification and all these things. And I'm like, oh, that's why it mattered. I get it now. And so I absolutely say, young voters, your vote matters and it counts. And trust me, if you don't think it counts now, you will look back and you will see the changes that happened while you sat back and did not take part in the vote.
Yeah, so for many people, especially young people, they love to complain. They love to get on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and talk about how, like, oh, I can't believe this is happening, yet they're not voting in election, like, on the local level. All they care about is, like, the presidential election. I'm like, you do know, like, within your state, like, you can make change in your state if you just vote. Like, these are the people that directly impact you.
like that's what your property taxes, my goodness, like just little things that you don't think about. You're like, oh, this is a lot higher. Did you vote?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important to get out there, guys, for sure. So
absolutely, go vote. Go vote. Right, it was really great being able to look back on those conversations. And if you want some new ones, don't worry. We'll be back next week on our free 9 News Plus app and 9news.com.